Long ball number 3 here. A Friday tradition returns. The Fab Four games to look out for across the North American soccer calendar. It is chock full. Competitions in many different competitions, but we'll go around the horn. We'll go Jason, myself, producer Jenny, and then go to the chat. So chat, if you have a game that you're carving out time for and that you really just is a can't miss, put that in the chat. We will have you as the 4th in the Fab Four, but Jason, lead us off. Pick one for this weekend's Fab Four games to watch.
I'm just going to go to what I think is a pretty obvious candidate in Major League Soccer. I mean, it's a big league and there are lots of games, but if I'm looking for storylines in this weekend's matchups, I don't have to go farther than Inter Miami hosting the Columbus Crew, because you've got these are what I think people thought were the two best teams in the Eastern Conference coming into the year. Rob,
are they going to play that one in Jacksonville?
No, they are not playing that one because of the stadiums. I'm confused.
Are they going to play that in Tampa Bay?
No, they're playing.
No, they should probably play that in the city that the team
see.
plays in, right? Not like Cleveland for Columbus.
Well, there is an NFL stadium in Miami, and yet they're not doing it there.
No. We got to move it 2.5 hours up the street. You know.
You're right. I guess that's the deal. But there's no shared ownership situation. Jorge Mas doesn't own a football team in Jacksonville or Tampa, so I guess you can't do it that way.
Not yet.
Inter Miami, Columbus, again, thought to be the two best teams coming into the season. Obviously, Philadelphia has had a good year. Cincinnati's good. We know that, despite the loss that they just suffered. I would say, Inter Miami getting on the right side of the ledger with the win over Montreal doesn't say a lot. Right? You're supposed to beat Montreal. Now, Messi had a good day. Yeah, I don't know that things clicked. This will be the test. Is Inter Miami on their way back, or is this more pain coming? And can Columbus, who I think has also hit a little bit of a dip, maybe not a dramatically poor run of form that's seen them drop too far down the table, but they haven't won in a while. So can they make a statement about their intent by beating Inter Miami in Fort Lauderdale?
Yeah, great barometer. And I mean, that away, the reverse fixture saw Columbus miss about a dozen chances, and Miami scored the only goal with like their one shot on goal. So it'll be interesting to see what that return fixture. That's Saturday at 7:30. My pick 2 of the Fab Four. While I want to pick Oakland County versus Northern Indiana in USL 2, I will go with the perhaps bigger scope of interest. Sunday night, 9:00. CONCACAF Champions Cup final. The unlikely darlings of Major League Soccer, Vancouver Whitecaps, take on Cruz Azul, making it the 3rd out of 3 Canadian Major League Soccer teams to make it to this stage of the competition.
Yeah, this is a big deal. I mean, we'll see if Vancouver has the juice to do what they've been doing in Mexico, which is playing teams to a standstill. Let's remember, they didn't win in Mexico, but they got the results they needed in Mexico. And there's a little bit of controversy around this, Rob, because Vancouver was given the option to skip the midweek date on Wednesday, but apparently the club decided to play. That they looked at their metrics and they said, actually, we're pretty good on short rest. Now they have to fly to Mexico. They have to play in Mexico City, Mexico City is a clean air city. Is that right, Rob?
I've heard it's really famous for its air purity.
Yeah, especially at those altitudes. So this is a wild thing. Like if Vancouver loses this game, people are going to point back to Wednesday and go, why'd you play? Why'd you play on Wednesday? And it's not like they rotated and kept all their stars off the field in that match, which ended in a goalless draw. They played the guys. So that could be a thing.
And it's wild that Vancouver, I think the only game they've lost so far is when Major League Soccer played through the Nations League window. That was the only thing. I think that's still their only loss of the season so far. And then maybe Vancouver, with your description of the approach, maybe they learned from Columbus when they had their difficult trip to Mexico. They did all sorts of crazy, like cryogenic training and elevation and shipping in their water and all that. And
they also got food poisoning. They also got food poisoning or whatever it was. Something
happened. So that's the point. Vancouver is going to just like a parachute in and out. Maybe they will put absolutely nothing into their bodies in their whole time to Mexico, because from what I understand, Columbus, they took some painstaking measures to be prepared for the conditions in Mexico, and it still went south for them.
Right.
long ball number or Fab Four pick number 3 coming from producer Jenny. The United States women's national team back in action Saturday, 5:30. Busy Saturday of football. I mean, I think you can watch from about 1 o'clock all the way until about 1 in the morning, nonstop block of football. But the women's national team looking to rebound from their 2-1 loss to Brazil back in April, but they will face China Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, this is the ongoing process of expanding the player pool and getting new faces and getting towards 2027, far enough away from that tournament that it doesn't feel all that important. And honestly, despite the history that these teams share, probably the United States should be favored to beat China regardless at Allianz Field in St. Paul. Giselle Thompson has pulled out due to a hip injury, so that's one bad break for Emma Hayes. Yeah, shout out to Ian Webb. That's pretty good. El Terrifico is pretty good. Don't apologize. Don't apologize for good jokes. So I mean, look, there are obviously some players in this group that you're going to want to see play that are, exciting players that everybody can rally around here. Players that have potential big roles to play in the U.S. women's national team of the future, but it's still early enough that you're kind of like, okay, let's just see what happens.
Yeah, looking down the scheduled games for the American women, China tomorrow, Tuesday against Jamaica, and then the end of June, another window with a pair of games against Ireland, and then one against Canada, all friendly. So definitely the building time for that program. So Fab Four, number 4 pick, we go to the chat. I see a few names thrown out there. You'll have to help me with the pronunciation of this commenter. Tapatio Costeño, Peoria City at Springfield.
I believe that is Tapatio is what that is.
Tapatio Costeño. Well done. Costeño. And up the carp. Carp, that's a fun fun
what who's the carp? Peoria City or Springfield? Which one of those is the carp? I need to know.
Well, Peoria is on a river.
Okay.
So that there's a possibility there. Springfield's the capital. Okay. So I'm not sure. I'm leaning Peoria City.
Can I ask a question? And maybe this is just ignorance on my part. Peoria, is it big enough to be called Peoria City? Like Peoria as a place? Does it measure to? So isn't there some rule about like city?
Yeah.
Is it a population thing? What's the deal about, like, in England, you have to have a cathedral to be a certain type of place? What is that deal?
Yeah, you're completely right. You go from a town to a city with the existence of a cathedral in there, and it's funny how you get shaped by your environment, because when I was a younger child, that seemed more legit than doing it another way. I was definitely indoctrinated, like, oh yeah, for sure, that should be the way you gauge a city, is if there's a giant church in the town.
All right, so I'm being told Peoria City are the Flying Carp, and I am on board. I am 100% in on the Flying Carp. That's scary. I think that's scary if you're out on the water and there's flying carp. But as a soccer team's nickname, let's go. Let's go, Rob.
I like that too. That's fun. And then Bernardo throwing in Miami FC versus FC Naples. And FC Naples, one of the storylines of American soccer so far this year. First year getting some nice crowds, and then Miami FC have existed for a while, have definitely been challenging, but you got your finger at what's up.
That's the Jägermeister Cup, which we should highlight a little bit, right? That's a Jägermeister Cup match, if I'm not mistaken, because USL is doing this interleague cup between now the USL Championship and USL League One. Obviously, Miami is a USL Championship team, and FC Naples is a League One team in 2025, at least for the moment. So the Jägermeister Cup is something I need to inform myself about, catch up a bit on. I'm looking at some of the games, and we had a game on Wednesday, Monterey Bay and Spokane Velocity. I believe Monterey won that game 1-0. Do I have that one right? Westchester and Hartford, Portland Hearts of Pine and Detroit City. That seems like a big one. That's like a for the culture kind of matchup. Like grassroots powerhouses. Portland's Hearts of Pine brand new. Detroit's been doing it for a while, and Detroit's got stuff we'll talk about in a couple seconds, but that's a big one.
I gotta say, I saw social media almost movie from Portland Hearts of Pine this week. It was like a father or son, like the dad was a fisherman, like an oyster fisherman, and it was how about the whole like the gruff older generation connected with his kids by going to the games and getting involved, and it was very cinematically shot.
Did they do the whole? Did you do the whole Mainer accent? Were there Mainer accents in there? Because that'd be incredible. I have to watch that.
I'm sure if you're an oyster fisherman off the coast of Portland, Maine, you'd have to be laying it on thick. I was more admiring the cinematography of it all and the dedication to dig into a fan story in year one like that. Tip of the hat. So the Fab Four here for the last week of May: Inter Miami versus Columbus, Cruz Azul versus Vancouver, women's national team versus China, and did we say it's either the Flying Carp or the Jägermeister matchup in Florida would be the fourth pick of the weekend. Thank you for your comments. We are going to ask for your enthusiasm, excitement levels for the final segment of the day. We're trying to get a scale here. What do you think of the 1 to 10 Ray Hudson excitement meter?
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah. What noise do you make? How excited are you? Yeah.
So the final segment of the show is getting the excitement 1 to 10 for the Ray Hudson meter for this year's Summer of Soccer. But we're going to come back with a segment in between to gather as much of those in between. If you're watching right now and if you haven't subscribed, what is wrong with you? Come on.
What is wrong with you?
What's the deal? And then if you've already done so, thank you very much. Tell your friends, tell your family, hit the subscribe button, do that. Then you want to take it to the next level. Membership, $3.99. You get access to videos, you get access to the Discord, and so many more things outside of the YouTube sphere. You can support us on coffee.com/morningkickaround and go watch our videos on Spotify. It's a great look there. You can watch videos on Spotify. We are there. And you can also look for Morning Kick Around as a podcast there. Follow us on social media at MKickaround on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Or write us a note, morningkickaround@gmail.com.